Track Reviews.
Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. I hope you're doing well. I don't know if you've heard, but there's a little band from Liverpool, England, that's all the rage right now, named the Beatles. And with the way the internet is just twittering about them at the moment, I think they're going to be pretty big. All jokes aside, though, there have been numerous headlines talking about what has been deemed as the final Beatles song, a track that would eventually drop, is now currently dropped, and how, OMG, the song was like made with AI. It's an AI Beatles song, which I mostly feel like was thrown out as a term to kind of create more discussion of the track, more controversy around the track, maybe even get like the technophiles going crazy about how, oh my god, this is like such an advancement. Look, I'm not here to explain all this crap and why perceptions of the track up until this point have been what they are. I'm just going to give you the abridged version of the history of this new Beatles song, final Beatles song, so that you know what we're getting into here. The Beatles, I imagine everybody clicking on this video knows who they are. That background doesn't need to be explained. The band broke up in the early 70s, and tragically John Lennon was killed in 1980. Over a decade later, as a means of celebrating and educating people on the history of the band, an anthology was released, complete with extras and interviews, and also a couple of new tracks that saw the remaining members of the band recording instrumentation around a pre-existing John Lennon demo. The production on this was aided by none other than Jeff Lynne of ELO fame. These sessions were fruitful, they added to the anthology project, but a snag was hit with one particular song, one particular John Lennon demo, that being the track Now and Then, because I guess there was only so much the band was able to do with the recording, which was John Lennon's voice and him playing piano at the same time, because technologically at the time when they were trying to pull this together, they couldn't really separate the vocals from the piano, and I guess couldn't sculpt the track to the point where they were happy with it enough to release it. So it just got left. It got abandoned. It just ended up being a road during that session that did not get completely traveled and was just forgotten about. Fast forward to now, where with AI, and I imagine, you know, filtering technology too, there is the ability to pretty much isolate the vocals. And now that the vocals can be effectively isolated, that left Paul and Ringo remaining, because obviously George passed away at the start of the 2000s, rest in peace. That gave Paul and Ringo the opportunity to go back and pretty much finish this track that, you know, had they had the capacity to during those 90 sessions, they probably would have done it then. Now, the original demo of this track has been floating around the internet, and I've already heard it, so at least songwriting-wise, there's not going to be any gigantic surprises here. What I'm mostly looking forward to here is how Jeff and Giles and Paul and Ringo sort of decided to, you know, orchestrate this thing and assemble it now that they could sort of pull apart its various pieces and add to it and take away as they please. How did they arrange it? How did they finish it? How did they complete it? Now and then, I'm going to put it on now. First listen, first reaction. Let's hear how it came out. All right. I was going through another listen to it. I had to turn it off. I can't. This is unfortunate because I feel like I'm feeding into a bit of a stereotype here for me. But yeah, I don't care for this. I don't care for the way they did it. And look, it's not about the AI. It's not about the technology. It's really not about any of that. I mean, honestly, the vocal separation thing and isolation thing, and again, I've heard the demo. It sounds good. John's voice is the best sounding thing on the entire track. That and the chord progression he came up with on the original song. And at its core, I like the song a lot. I mean, is it his best and most thorough from a lyrical standpoint? Not really, but I do like the dark and mournful tone of the chords. The vocal melodies are there. I like that the chords warm up a little bit as you kind of shift from that part A to the song to the part B. And even though the song itself John wrote does feel a bit more pleasant and does resolve in a sweeter way during that chorus section of the track, I like that the strings that were added do still provide a bit of gloom and urgency to that section of the song. Because if there is one critique I have of the demo, it's that the chorus does feel like such a vibe change from the verses. The track feels almost disconnected in a way from itself. And the best thing I can say about the production on this version, on this final version, is that it makes the whole thing sound together and complete and holistic. But outside of that, I just don't really like the way they made the track sound. Like, the bass and drums are fucking booming and blaring to the point where it's like, why did you even put in all this effort to suss out John's voice if you were just gonna like smother it in this mountain of damn bass? Plus, Paul McCartney's like throwing licks out there that I just don't really feel like match the vibe of the tune John is writing. Like, what about his voice and his piano chords make you want to go, like, are you kidding me? And while the strings do work, they feel like more of a relic from the Revolver era and are just very blaring, very loud, very heavy-handed. I think those drums and the bass and the strings, while it's cool that they're there, they all could have been brought down a little bit, just bring a bit more space and openness to the song and the mix, and maybe like try to recapture a vibe similar to that of Imagine, for example. The recordings and mixes on that record are great. They're eerie, they're spacious, they're beautiful. There's a nice balance there between everything in the mix. This is just, ugh. It's so claustrophobic and it's so closed in. And again, it feels like John's voice got dug up just for it to get buried with other stuff. It's a simple song, it's a direct song, and I feel like production-wise, this really should have been a less is more moment, but because Paul and Ringo could just pretty much add whatever they felt they could add to it, I feel like they just sort of overshot their contributions a bit and just wrapped the demo in instrumentation that doesn't really appreciate how sad and soft and bare and tender the song that John wrote here is. It's like, rather than maintaining that eerie, beautiful space, they were like, oh, look at all this room to put stuff. That doesn't mean every single nook and cranny needs to get filled up. So yeah, unfortunately, I think while the song is cool, I think it's great what they were able to pull off with John's voice. Technically, it's a simple but solid tune, but they finished it up in such a way that just feels too dense, feels too bricked out. And, you know, honestly, John's demo, with it being the way it was, it felt very much like, you know, a perfectly laid out picture in a coloring book. And Paul and everybody on this track did not color in the lines, especially during these passages where they're throwing in all the layers of background vocals, which sound almost just as loud as John's lead. So yeah, instrumentally, mix-wise, frankly, I think it's a bit of a mess. It's a tad bit unflattering. I know that there was no way it was going to sound like, you know, something out of the era musically that John recorded it, but I feel like there could have at least been a bit of an attempt to recapture that or present this song in a way that felt complementary to John's demo here. Maybe follow previously favored aesthetics and sounds that he was working with during that era of his career. And yeah, this was just not working out. But let me know what you thought in the comments. Did you love this final Beatles song? Did you hate it? How do you think it was produced, arranged, finished? You're the best. Appreciate you watching. Anthony Fantano. Now and then, forever.